You know, we are told it was the lowest bid. Senior. Chimera last. Honorable Mofaya, on behalf of the male senators. You remember there was a wheelbarrow that costed 80,000. Yeah, so you know, we are told it was the lowest bid. Senior. Chimera last. Because, you know, it can fit the two of you, maybe you and your spouse. Good. It can be taken. Now you've seen it. The media, you have seen it? Good. That is the chair that the director of procurement said it was the lowest bid. And you know the law is very clear. I mean, if you do a tender, you evaluate. The only issue that I had an issue was a market survey that was not done.
And so, apparently I don't feel too comfortable. I wonder why that is. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, this is an appeal. It's actually important to note that A&E holders, people who sign, are seated right at this table. It is unjust that we sit here every Thursday night and dissect the matters of the nation, and we don't get to sit on a seat that costs $1 million shillings, or even one that is $500,000 shillings. We can do better. Linus, this is directed straight to you. Accountability.
Yes,
accountability.
And I can go first and say, first of all, we're never the story. So let's go to Parliament.
Nice one.
Whether you're
actually, but can you know? I know you can't see it, but from the background, it actually looks like
you're seated on that chair.
Well done to whoever did this.
That's a good
chair.
Or
and your boss, sasa ongea.
Ongea na watu wako.
But speaking of which, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that it's not true, that it's not factual, that 1 million shillings of Kenyans' taxpayers' money was used to buy a seat to be sat on by the governor, by the deputy governor. It's strange because you're elected to serve the people, and the people are in the regions. And devolution was devolution of power and resources. So if you're to improve the service delivery, I'm just wondering what comfort got to do with it. And while I agree that you need to be comfortable to do your work, Yvonne, I also agree that it must be done in a manner that respects the situation that you're in economically.
But you know, you say it's strange, but is it really that strange? Because we've seen this before, Jamila, haven't we?
We have seen it before. Because remember, you're saying you hope it's not true, but the deputy governor was before Senate today, and this 1 million shilling chair was part of 18 million shillings that was used for furniture and renovation works at his office. There were two others, I think each worth $500,000 shillings. Whether that's what they cost, actually, it's one of those instances where we quote...
Sorry, just go back. 18 million shillings for furniture.
Yeah, and renovation of his office, yes. That is what was brought before the Senate today.
Yo.
But then you talk about this having happened before, we'll dive into it. It reminds me of other instances of when we've had ridiculous sums of money being used for ridiculous things. I remember there was a time that 3.7 million shillings was allegedly spent on cows. And 4.3 million shillings was spent on rearing earthworms
Hang on.
and black flies.
You don't
Yeah, you've just said cows, huh? So the member from
which county it
Mosinoni
was.
would like to...
I'm forgetting
is rising
where
on
it
a
was,
point
but
of order.
Yeah, it was
There could be a
3.7
bit
million
of conflict
shillings
of interest.
allegedly spent on cows. 4.3 million shillings was spent on rearing earthworms and black flies. I'm trying to remember if it was Kisumu County. And then there was a project that Kirinyaga County was cited for spending 2 million shillings on a Facebook account. I remember that.
were they doing on
7.6
the
million shillings was spent on a hospital gate in Nyamira.
Yeah.
And then, of course, remember the Bungoma wheelbarrows, which cost 109,000 shillings each.
They were non-carcinogenic. That was the word.
Exactly. So look at that.
Because the others cause cancer.
So that was it, Yvonne. And I'm not saying this is not this year or last year. This was in the past few years. And we talk about devolution and what it was meant to do. There are places in this country that devolution has made a difference. They get roads. I'm talking about like Northeastern Province. Traveling was a nightmare for us to go home. Someone shall go unafikiria twice because you'll be on the road for 2 days.
Yeah.
At least now you can get there in about 8 hours. But the point here is, why spend so much money on something so trivial? We look at where we are right now as a country. We look at how already counties are bleeding and complaining about how they don't have enough money, looking at how services even in hospitals are not there because there's no money to counties, and the costs of living is going up. And then something as ridiculous and as trivial as a chair, you spend so much money on it, is really just a slap in the face of Kenyans.
And it's devolving bad manners. So, I mean, we devolved, like Jamila is saying, funds, resources, and the power to the people to make a decision on what's important to them, but we also devolved bad manners. And we're seeing this at the devolved units, like Jamila has obviously outlined. Bad manners is enough to go all around, national and county-wide.
Absolutely, Yvonne. And I was looking at those pictures and questioning the honesty of the senators.
Oh, don't swing.
And even those who took turns to sit on that chair and pretend, let's say...
Yeah, they had quite a bit of fun with it, didn't they?
Because look, we are having a national show in political hypocrisy as a country around the chair of William Oduol. Because we've had so many other similar senseless expenditures. Because unfortunately, this seems to be the motive of our politics. Why do people run for office? Why do they seek political power? You saw in sections of the media today, I think it was Daily Nation, showing us how the contracts in the edible oil importation were shared out. How different is that from Oduol's seat? Because we know of stories of how inflated prices are when you're a supplier to government. Even supplying pencils, supplying printing paper, that can actually make you afford that trip to see the Titanic. Was it costing $200,000?
$250,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, $250,000. Yeah. Just supply pencils to government. The prices are so friendly, you can actually raise that much. Because we flout our procurement rules, we actually exaggerate prices of things. And it's good, at least one step at a time. So if accountability, one chair at a time, can actually be brought, because these senators know, they know, we know, and everybody knows that this is how we've been doing things. This chair is just a small example. We never brought the wheelbarrow here. There are a lot of other things like printing paper. Printing paper. And
the Facebook account was never brought here.
Yes. Absolutely. So this is a moment of hypocrisy. This is how we do it.
And not to mention...
Now, this is CIL.
Yeah.
Where are the 46? Let's get more chairs from out there.
Remember,
and here is one thing that we also need to just say, out of observing what we see. Have you noticed we have new tiles in the... we have an entire new carpet at the State House.
The cabro?
The cabro in the front yard. I think the Deputy President's official residence also has black tiles now and all that. There are things we haven't reported, for example. I mean, the renovations that go in these ministerial offices. Ministers are not just moving. Okay, let's call them cabinet secretaries, what the Constitution calls them. They're not just moving to these offices. Some of them are changing. They're saying, give me this table, this, give me... And all that is going on. So we might even say, why Odwal? Where are the rest?
And Yvonne, remember there was a report that was released recently, I think in the past month or so, by the EACC about the devolved function of health in the counties and how contracts are issued and how they said, I think almost 80% of most of those contracts are either inflated at the budgeting stage in terms of how much it should cost. There's a lot of nepotism in it because those contracts are being awarded to people's relatives.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether whoever is being given the contract is actually able to provide the services and payment is made. And when you hear about 80% of contracts and involves almost all the counties, that's just one aspect of how dishonest I think we are as a society, and the fact that someone who is unable to provide the service, be it construction of a hospital or whatever it is being given the contract simply because they're a wife, a brother, a sister, or whatever it is, to the accounting officer, the person who's issuing out those contracts, is actually an issue of national shame.
You know what I wonder is for many of those persons who, and not just in Siaya County, but in other counties, small business owners who provided goods and services to the counties, the pending bills are amounting to what now? It's how many billions of shillings?
It's more than 160 billion shillings
exactly,
for the
counties.
counties.
And you see, for me, the interesting thing is this. Fine, it's one seat of 1 million shillings, but it does represent somebody who legitimately provided goods and services to the county governments, and who one regime after the next of county governments come in and say, oh, we want to do a fresh audit. We don't trust all of these things. People who took loans, small businesses who went back to the counties and said, you know, this is now, and they were encouraged, right? Go back to the counties, do business, grow in your hometown or home area. And then they provided those goods and services and are yet to receive payment. And then they see something like this. And like, you know, Linus has said, there's many other chairs, pencils, wheelbarrows, or whatever out there. Can you imagine their pain, seeing them procuring or spending money on one seat for 1 million shillings, and you owe them money? That for me is just, that's the stark contrast. And then they will keep being told, we're auditing, we want to check if all of the pending bills were actually legitimate. Like, it's story after story, but it's certainly not for the comfort of those in leadership at the county level.
And something also that is quite important, look, how many days to the end of the year?
Yeah.
It's 8 days to the end of the financial year. The governors are yet to receive up to 94 billion shillings that they should have received by the end of this financial year, actually by 15th of June, because 15th of every month, that's when you receive the allocation for that particular month. But one would wonder, with all the challenges they've had, because this year has just been disastrous, because as of April, they had not received resources from January all the way to March. But then there were resources sufficient to pay for a seat at an exorbitant price. I mean, that baffles me. And what's more, reports from the control of budget keep speaking of the low absorption of development budget, because the resources are not coming in at the right time. The recurrent expenditure, they don't appear to have a lot of problems in absorbing that. But we can imagine that even salaries were delayed, contributions and remittances to, I mean, statutory deductions. You're talking about NSSF, NHF contributions for county workers could not be remitted, but it was possible to pay for a seat that expensive. This is wrong. And of course, we are 10 months into the current term of devolution. This has to change. And you must say, whether it's true or not, we must commend the County Assembly of Siaya for bringing this out. And I just hope that more MCAs can do this to monitor the expenditure in their counties.
Indeed. Listen, I shudder to think at what else is happening in other counties that is yet to be unearthed. Hopefully, you know, not as much as we've seen. And it's only 10 months in. Yo, so we've got...
They actually panicked when Camilla brought cows up.
You know that chair? I'm sorry, I need to say this about that chair. I need to say this about the chair.
Tell us about the chair.
It is an orthopedic chair whose physical characteristics include an adjustable armrest, lumbar support, adjustable seat depth, tilt and lock, adjustable height, and a spongy feel. I just had to put that out there.
Jamila, please stop.
Niachie hapo.
Yeah.
Niachie.
Tumalizie tu hapo.
I will ask for that on account of my back problems. But anyway, like Linus reminds us, we shall not be the news. So I will desist from that. But here's something else that made headlines this week, I think.